friends, colleagues, fellow travelers on this great journey of life. I want to talk to you today about something that happens to every single one of us. It's an inevitable part of the human experience. I'm talking about that moment when a word is spoken, an action is taken, or an injustice is delivered that feels like a dagger to the heart. It's that moment when someone, through carelessness or malice, hurts you. The power of choosing not to react. The first keynote, focusing on emotional intelligence, is a powerful and often misunderstood concept. It's the idea that choosing not to react to someone who hurts you is not an act of submission or weakness. It's a demonstration of high self-control and emotional mastery. When someone says or does something that is intended to provoke you, their goal, whether conscious or not, is to elicit a response. They want to see you get angry, get upset, or lash out. In that moment, a reaction validates their power over you. By lashing out, you're essentially handing them a victory, proving that they have the ability to disturb your inner peace and control your emotional state. This kind of reaction is a knee-jerk, instinctual response. It's the part of our brain that wants to fight back. However, a person with high emotional intelligence understands that their emotions are their own and are not to be dictated by the actions of others. They recognize that reacting with anger or bitterness only serves to amplify the initial hurt. It's like pouring gasoline on a small fire. It doesn't put it out, it makes it a raging inferno. The emotionally intelligent person sees this and makes a conscious, deliberate choice to not fuel the fire. This choice is an act of incredible strength. It requires you to override your most basic instincts and choose a different, more difficult path. It's the path of maintaining your dignity, your composure, and your own sense of self-worth. It's the path of saying, your negativity and your words do not have the power to define my day or my mood. This isn't about ignoring the hurt. It's about acknowledging it and then consciously deciding not to let it consume you. It's about shifting the focus from the other person's actions to your own internal state. Furthermore, this non-reaction often has an unexpected effect on the person who hurts you. When they expect an angry outburst and are met with calm silence, it can disarm them completely. They are denied the emotional response they sought, and their attempt to provoke you fails. This can be a far more powerful and lasting victory than any verbal comeback. It demonstrates that you are operating on a different level, one where your peace is paramount and you are not easily swayed by external forces. Ultimately, emotional intelligence in this context is about preserving your own tranquility and demonstrating that your inner world is your own sacred space, impenetrable to the careless or cruel actions of others. The second key note delves into the concept of an internal locus of control, which is a psychological principle that directly informs the power of non-reaction. The term locus of control refers to the degree to which individuals believe they have control over the events that affect their lives. An internal locus of control is the belief that you, through your own actions, efforts, and decisions, are the primary cause of the outcomes in your life. In contrast, an external locus of control is the belief that outcomes are due to outside forces like luck, fate, or other people. When someone hurts you, whether through a cruel comment or an unfair action, a person with an external locus of control might feel like a victim. They might feel that their happiness and well-being are at the mercy of others. This is a fragile and dangerous state of being because it means your emotional stability is constantly at risk, vulnerable to the whims of every person you encounter. The immediate reactive response is often a cry for help or a plea for external validation, a desperate attempt to get the other person to change their behavior, to apologize, or to see the error of their ways. This is a futile and exhausting exercise because you are trying to control something that is fundamentally outside of your power, another person's actions and motivations. The person who chooses not to react, however, is operating from a place of a strong internal locus of control. They understand that while they cannot control what another person says or does, they have absolute control over their own response. They see their peace, their dignity, and their happiness not as prizes to be granted or taken away by others, but as internal assets that they are responsible for guarding. This mindset transforms the situation from a helpless one into an empowering one. The hurt still exists, but the power dynamic is entirely different. Instead of being a passive recipient of pain, you become an active agent of your own emotional state. The third keynote highlights strategic silence. Reframing non-reaction not as a passive surrender, but as a powerful, deliberate strategy. In any confrontation or situation where someone tries to hurt you, there's a predictable script. The person acts, expects a response, and is prepared for a verbal back and forth. When you choose silence, you are deliberately tearing up that script. You aren't just doing nothing. You are actively choosing a different, more powerful course of action. This is a strategic move that denies the aggressor the very thing they are seeking, a reaction that validates their behavior. Think of it like a chess match. The opponent makes a move, expecting you to counter in a predictable way. By choosing not to react, you're not just standing still, you're making a move they didn't anticipate. This throws them off balance. They are left with their own words and actions hanging in the air with no one to catch them. The anger they directed at you now has nowhere to go but back to them. Your silence forces them to confront their own behavior without the distraction of your emotional response. This is why silence can feel so deafening to someone who is expecting a fight. This strategic silence also preserves your dignity. A heated argument or a retaliatory remark often pulls you down to the level of the person who is trying to hurt you. It forces you to engage in a messy, undignified exchange. By remaining silent, you are refusing to participate in this dissent. You are holding the high ground, demonstrating that you are above the fray. This isn't about being a martyr. It's about making a conscious choice to protect your own integrity. You are saying, without saying a word, that your self-respect is more important than having the last word. Moreover, strategic silence gives you time. It creates a space between the event and your response, allowing you to process what happened without the cloud of immediate emotion. This pause is invaluable. It prevents you from saying something you'll later regret and allows you to consider your options from a place of clarity rather than anger. Perhaps the best response is no response at all, or perhaps a more thoughtful, composed response is needed later. The point is, by choosing strategic silence, you seize control of the timeline. You dictate when and how you will engage, or if you will engage at all. It is the ultimate power move in an emotional confrontation, a quiet, unassailable fortress that protects your peace and your composure. The fourth keynote addresses a fundamental truth about human nature and conflict, the folly of vengeance. This idea posits that reacting to hurt with anger or retaliation is not a path to justice, but a self-destructive act that traps you in a cycle of negativity. When someone hurts you, the instinct is to make them feel the same pain. We believe that by getting even, we will restore balance and find closure. However, this is a profound illusion. Vengeance rarely, if ever, delivers the satisfaction it promises. Instead, it only deepens the wound, both for you and for the other person. Engaging in a retaliatory cycle is like two people trying to put out a fire by throwing gasoline on it. You may think you are punishing the other person, but in reality, you are inextricably linking your well-being to their negative behavior. Your anger becomes a chain that binds you to them, forcing you to constantly replay the hurtful event in your mind. This obsession with vengeance consumes your energy, your thoughts, and your peace. It takes up residence in your heart and mind, leaving little room for positive emotions like joy, forgiveness, or even simple contentment. The desire to make someone else suffer ultimately makes you the one who suffers most. Furthermore, retaliation escalates the conflict, turning a single incident into an ongoing feud. The other person feeling your counterattack will likely feel justified in their own anger and respond in kind. This creates a destructive feedback loop where each act of retribution fuels the next, spiraling into a situation far worse than the original offense. This cycle of negativity not only drains you emotionally, but also has a corrosive effect on your relationships and your overall mental health. You become a prisoner of the past, unable to move forward because you are so focused on settling a score that can never truly be settled. By choosing not to react, you break this cycle. You refuse to engage in the game of vengeance, thereby disarming the other person and, more importantly, freeing yourself. This is not about letting them get away with it. It is about a deeper, more profound form of self-preservation. It is the recognition that your peace is more valuable than any temporary, fleeting satisfaction that a moment of revenge might offer. It is the wisdom to understand that the best way to win is to refuse to play a game designed to make everyone lose. The fifth keynote centers on dignity and grace, framing the choice not to react as a deliberate act of grace, a way to rise above a hurtful situation and preserve your own sense of self-worth. When someone hurts you, the natural inclination is to descend into the muck of their negativity. A reaction, especially an angry one, pulls you down to their level, forcing you to engage in a messy, undignified exchange. By choosing silence, you are consciously refusing to take that fall. You are asserting that your character and your peace of mind are more valuable than a momentary, petty victory. This act of grace is a powerful display of inner strength. It communicates that you are not so easily shaken, that your sense of self is not dependent on the approval or actions of others. You are essentially saying, I will not let your behavior dictate mine. This is the essence of dignity, the quiet, unshakable confidence that you are a person of worth, regardless of how you are treated. This non-reaction doesn't mean you're a doormat. It means you are an unassailable fortress. You are protecting the sanctity of your own emotional space from external invasion. Moreover, this approach often has a surprising effect on the person who hurts you. They expect a fight, but when you respond with dignity and grace, they are left with nothing to push against. Their anger or cruelty, when met with calm composure, loses its power. It can even force them to reflect on their own behavior as they are left alone with their actions without the distraction of your emotional outburst. Your non-reaction becomes a powerful mirror, reflecting their negativity back at them without you having to say a single word. Choosing grace over retaliation is not just about the other person. It's a gift you give to yourself. It saves you from the emotional turmoil of a prolonged conflict. It preserves your energy for things that matter. your goals, your relationships, and your happiness. It allows you to walk away from a hurtful situation with your head held high, knowing that you handled it with integrity and strength. This is not just a strategic choice, it is a moral one. It is a commitment to living a life guided by your highest values, not by the lowest actions of others. In the end, dignity and grace are not merely reactions. They are the fundamental building blocks of a life well lived. The sixth and final keynote focuses on the imperative to focus on the future, encouraging a shift in perspective from the past, hurt, to a future where you are in control of your own responses and destiny. When you are hurt by someone's actions, it's incredibly easy to become consumed by the event. The details of what they said or did can replay in your mind like a broken record, and your thoughts can become fixated on seeking justice or getting an apology. This kind of fixation keeps you firmly planted in the past, a prisoner to an event you cannot change. Your energy is spent on relitigating a moment that is already over, which prevents you from moving forward with your life. This is the ultimate trap. Allowing someone else's negativity to not only hurt you in the moment, but also to steal your future. By choosing not to react, you are making a powerful declaration that the past does not define you. You are refusing to let one person's actions become the central theme of your life story. Instead, you are turning your attention and energy toward what you can control, and that is your future. This is a proactive choice, not a passive one. It means consciously redirecting your focus away from the anger and resentment of the past and toward the positive possibilities of tomorrow. What goals can you work on? What relationships can you nurture? What personal growth can you pursue? These are the questions that liberate you from the shackles of a past hurt. This forward-looking perspective is a form of self-preservation. It protects you from the long-term corrosive effects of bitterness and resentment. Holding on to anger is like carrying a heavy, invisible weight that slows you down and drains your spirit. By releasing the need for an immediate reaction, you are essentially dropping that weight. You are choosing to invest your emotional capital in building a better future for yourself rather than spending it on a fruitless battle over the past. This is an act of profound self-love and self-respect. Ultimately, focusing on the future is about taking back your power. While you can't erase what happened, you have the power to decide what happens next. You get to write the next chapter of your life, and by choosing not to react, you ensure that the previous chapter ends cleanly, without a messy, unresolved epilogue. You are setting yourself free to pursue a life that is full of purpose and peace, a life that is defined not by the people who hurt you, but by the person you choose to be. And so as we leave this place and re-enter our world, let's remember this single crucial truth. The power is ours. The world will always present us with challenges, with people and situations that threaten our peace. But the true measure of our strength is not how we fight back, but how we choose to respond. The choice to not react is not a retreat. It is an advance into a life of dignity, control, and profound inner peace. It is the wisdom to understand that our happiness is not a fragile thing to be protected from others, but an internal fortress that we alone are responsible for building and defending. So the next time someone tries to hurt you, pause, take a moment to remember the power you hold, and instead of reacting, choose to rise. Choose to remain in control. Choose to protect your peace. For in that silent, deliberate act, you will discover that you are the master of your own destiny, the guardian of your own peace, and the author of your own happiness.